Appreciate you guys being here. My voice, offense does a lot. Got a few more gray hairs since I saw you last. I know I'm still handsome, but lost a little bit of color in my hair since we started training camp. But been a good camp. Guys have done a good job, put a lot in, a lot of situational football. Coach talked about it. I think we're getting better as a team. Obviously, it's a team-oriented game, and there's some great battles every day with our offense. I was a head coach before I was here at another university several years ago. We ran a version of this offense. I know what a pain it is. When I took the job, that was my biggest trepidation, is knowing what we're going to see in practice every day, because they do a lot, and they're very, very proficient with it. Obviously, that staff's been together outside of ball for a long time, so they do a really nice job. So every day is a challenge. Don't sleep much, but it's been a good camp. We're practice 7, I believe, tomorrow. And so kind of becomes Groundhog Day a little bit as you get into this thing, just kind of repeats itself. So nice to have a day to catch your breath. So with that, any questions you guys got?
How do you catch your breath?
I've been doing this, Lane Kiffin's been doing the yoga thing, so I'm doing 30 days of yoga straight. So this morning I gave myself a bagel from Bacon Street Bagels. That was, instead of coming in at 5 something, I came in at 7. So went and got a bagel, which was good, and some coffee. So that's your moment of levity, just doing some stuff. Call your daughters, have a laugh, and then you're sitting there with a piece. I have a scratch pad next to my nightstand, and I usually wake up and write some things down. So like I said, the offense, they do a great job. They challenge you, and they present a lot of pictures for us. As having coached the linebackers over the years, they present a lot of eye candy, as I call it, and they do a really good job with all their movement shifts, all the different things they do. But you've got to find time to have some fun too. I think as a coach, you can get so process oriented that you forget to enjoy the journey too. And I think that's, as you get a little bit older, you try to find some humor in things. We'll have some fun and laughs with the guys. They've been great. So, but it's kind of hard to unwind. I told my friends, I said I would close in the submarine hatch in August, and I'll see you in January. So you kind of have that mindset. And I'm sure for the coaches, it's kind of that bunker mentality. You go to work, and that's what you do. So, but you got to find some levity in there and a few minutes to see what's going on in the world. So.
You've been here a few months now. You've kind of got a feel for the personnel at this point, what they're capable of, what they're not. You've looked at what this team has been, I'm sure, and what the goals are for this year. How do you feel like that you have the depth needed to be productive at the level this team wants to be?
I think we've got some good players, not just the first group. If you ask any football coach, I guarantee if you ask all the coaches today, we're like Noah's Ark. We need 2 of everything. So you always are looking for more guys. Because I think something that's really different, and I would say probably most coaches would say Coach Signetti probably figured it out. You have smaller rosters than you've ever had, and you can't replace those players with 30 less, 25 less guys, whatever the amount is. You have to be very careful about injuries, because your depth gets thin in a hurry. But I do think we've done a good job. The coaches, the recruiting staff here, and coming here, I thought the staff had done a really nice job in the recruiting piece. And obviously we have 55 new players, so there are a lot of new players, but having enough depth, I think with the 5-for-5 rule, everybody knows they have an opportunity to play, especially as a skill guy defensively. Most of those guys are going to play special teams. So you're developing some depth by guys playing in the game in other scenarios. But we got some spots I don't feel as good about our depth as I do at other spots, but Coach Durkin does a great job at O-line, knows this. We play a ton of guys on the D-line. That's a big believer. If you go back to Alabama when they were really good, the best teams probably here at Liberty had some depth at the defensive line. And so right now we do, but you're a practice or 2 away from being razor thin. That's the scary part, and that's the way it's going to be every week, every game, because you get a guy or 2 injured, all of a sudden you're on your 4th guy, and there's not as many guys as it was. But I do feel like we have more guys, to answer your question, that can play and compete. And we on defense are going to try to play as many guys as we can, because over the season you need those guys.
What was one thing coming into fall camp that you wanted to focus on most that you learned from spring ball with the roster that you had?
Just being able to win situational football and being good. Like, I think we have a talented group. We're going to play some very talented teams, and usually those edges on the paper, the corners of the game, whether it's the last couple minutes in a ball game before half, the first couple minutes coming out, a critical third down is winning those situations. But I learned our guys are very competitive. We fit the run here a lot because our offense runs the football, which I think is a really good thing. But what I learned is, man, we got to have the ability to be able to do stuff and do it in a fast speed because this game's so tempo-driven now by a lot of teams that you have to make it simple enough. A lot of new players, you got to cut down your verbiage as much as possible.
Freshman quarterback has been a big focus from last year, now going into this year. Like, what have you seen in terms of that and what you're getting out of your defensive line?
I think we got some guys that can rush the quarterback. Obviously, I would say this: you got to stop the run first. It's hard to rush the passer on 3rd and 1. 3rd and 11, man, and guys all of a sudden become a lot better pass rushers. We do have some guys, Lorenzo, Mike, Floyd, Brenton Williams, Ethan Chris. We got some guys, Sam, going that can rush the quarterback. And then inside we've got some guys. But we got to get them in those manageable deals where you can pin your ears back. And if you can get teams that can't run the ball and play the pass, it's a lot easier to rush the passer. So not to give you a vanilla answer, but I think they've made strides in that. And then we're figuring out, kind of what their strengths are. Some years you're hardcore rock and roll. Other years you're different style. You're more country. Whatever you got to figure out what your band can play. And I think as a coach, you can sit there and say, we're going to do this and this, but what does it fit your personnel? One of the best lessons for me going to Savannah State, coming from Georgia Southern, which was really good, totally different personnel, different MO. You had to figure out a way to win. And I think, I go back to Coach Signetti, what he's done. He's been at different places and adapted to what the personnel is. And obviously this league, they throw the ball around a lot. But I think we've got some guys that can rush the passer. And some years you don't, and you got to bring more pressure. In the perfect world, you can drop 7, drop 8, and bring 3 guys, and they get there every time. That's not the reality of it. But we do have some guys, if we can let them pin their ears back, they're going to be pretty productive.
Coach Chavo mentioned yesterday that he feels pretty confident about the front 7, but still trying to figure out who he can trust in the secondary. Are you feeling the same type way? And maybe who are some guys that are stepping forward?
Well, obviously a whole new group back there. DIC Hopkins, who you guys interviewed the other day, he's done a great job leading us back there, kind of being a veteran guy. I tell him he's cool as the other side of the pillow. He's very, very calm, collect, and he's cerebral, which you need at that position because he's got to help get us lined up. Coach Peoples and Coach Dino Waits, they've done a really good job of bringing in some good defensive backs, some safeties, and kind of flipped that room. Obviously, our front was more experienced. Those guys have played a lot. Rel Ferrara at linebacker, Mike Jarvis, Nate Paroli. We have some good D linemen, and there's more of them. But in the secondary, I think those guys have done a good job. And like I said, our offense does a lot. And that's a good thing. And they challenge you with formations and motions and all the things that they do. They're very multiple. And that's forced our guys to have to get good. It's not, you'll play some teams, they're getting 2 or 3 formations, and I'm like, Coach, that's all they do. And our guys do a lot, which is good. It challenges us. But I think that group's made a lot of strides. It was a real concern when we got here. And over time, we've gotten more confidence in them. And I said the coaches have done a good job. And as we get into this, we're going to play a lot of guys. And we're still nothing settled yet. This is an open competition, and it will stay that way. But there's some guys, obviously, you feel like maybe a step ahead. But playing a lot of guys in different situations. I've asked our coaches, I said, be willing to play some different lineups. I was a Bulls fan, Phil Jackson, he plays some different lineups. We're going to play some different groups and see who works well together because there is a certain jihad or harmony that you have to have where those guys communicate. We brought Jeremiah Vessel in late. He's been awesome. Really good addition to us, a veteran guy. And so some of those, you need a spark plug, but you also need a guy like DIC who can get us lined up and be a quarterback back there. So, and like I said, those guys, coaches have done a good job putting the right pieces together.
Any noteworthy position changes maybe that you experienced in the spring or that didn't work, or significant ones maybe that you're working on now, if any?
A couple of the linebackers were out, and so that's given us flexibility to move some guys around. We didn't have Deuce Spurlock for most of spring, Rel for most of spring. Micah Pollard was limited at times. Aiden Vaughn was. So we having those guys back, those guys give us. Kyle Fern wasn't out there, so really that's a whole new room. We've been able to play more of those guys at a couple different spots. And then figuring out who can be the third corner, be a cover guy, who's the guy that can do some things, and also who besides DIC can help get us lined up, because he's going to have to be subbed in at some point. He may get hurt. You have to have the what ifs. And then really over the spring, the summer, and I know this gets lost in the sauce, but it is the sauce, is the chemistry component, who kind of the leaders are, who are the guys that lead and push. And, you need a guy in the locker room pushing the right things, not the wrong things. And, in a day and age when everything's about me, we got to be about us. And so that's the challenge. And, with all these new guys coming in, it's kind of like a pot of gumbo. How's it going to taste? I'm going to use food analogies. You figured that out already. But, how are we going to meld together? And one of the guys that Coach McGee coaches, Mike Jarvis, has been great. He's kind of been like the kinetic glue, one of the guys in the room. And on good teams, you may have been like maybe not as talented as sometimes the very most talented team is your biggest underachiever because they didn't have anybody glue them together. But if we're going to have a chance to win, because we're going to face adversity, you got to have some stick-to-itiveness. You need a couple guys that do that. Mike Jarvis does that. Nate Paroli does that. Rel Farrar, he's like E.F. Hutton when he talks, everybody listens. Right? Yes, sir. Coaches and players included. So I think that's part of it.
How much different for fans watching, like how much different will it look on the field this year? Schematically, just mentality-wise, how different do you think it'll look? I mean, from what was here previously.
I wasn't here, so that's a little bit of hard. All I can tell is I hope the fans say we play hard as heck. We play with a bunch of energy. The guys are passionate. We make plays. We're able to get the crowd going. I know that's a hard place to play. I've been on the other side of it. If we can get this place bouncing and jumping and excited that we play a style that, man, they're like, those guys play their butts off. Those guys fly the football. They make plays. When it's time to answer the bell, they do that. Like I said, they've had a lot of really good teams here. And me coming in here, I don't want to come here and say, you didn't do this well. How can we be better? How can we take whatever was good and make it even better? So can we play harder than they did? Can we be better in situations than they were? Those are the challenges, because there's been a lot of coaches that have been really good here before, and I don't want to discredit any of them. So what we're going to try to do is play a really tough brand of football, run to the ball, make plays, have an edge. On defense, you got to be kind of on that line all the time, coaching it. And players, you always say you got to be a little off kilter to play on defense. So, and definitely a coach, I'm definitely off kilter. But no, all joking aside, I think hopefully fans see that, and a fun bunch to watch. I grew up a Bears fan in the '86 Bears, which I still to this day think's the greatest group of defensive guys ever, and they just had a certain panache and energy. They made plays in the snow and they're barking, and guys having fun, competing. And in a day and age where it's again about me, we want to play with some joy, have fun when we play. Hopefully the fans see that. So